April 1950. A typical patchy midsummer night in Bengal. A man is sitting in his Burdwan residence. Within the next 10 years, he's going to be a pivotal figure in the history of faraway lands like Malaysia, Indonesia and Sudan. But that's a story for another day. Right now, he has a problem. Actually, loads of them. A country spanning 1.3 million square miles with 361 million people speaking in 1652 major and minor languages is facing its first general election. And this unassuming bureaucrat, Sukumar Sen, the first election commissioner of India, has been tasked with its smooth execution. Though this is not really the first time an election is being conducted on Indian soil, but the sheer scale and logistical concerns are completely new, not just for this country, but for the whole world at that time. And the biggest problem of them all, only 18% of the population is literate. How to make the other 82% vote without being able to read the name of the person they want to vote for? The Election Commission came up with an ingenious solution: symbols. The concept of associating a political party with a particular symbol was nothing new. The world's oldest democracy had already started denoting its two major political parties with two easily recognizable symbols. The now famous donkey and elephant had their origins in a sarcastic depiction by a cartoonist, but they were never used as election symbols in the actual voting procedure. The case in India is rather different. We vote on symbols. The Election Commission of India is primarily an executive body that has passed a single piece of legislation which sets the rules parties must adhere to while using symbols. Religious icons, pictures of personalities, or any other inflammatory imagery are strictly prohibited. And of late, due to rising concerns regarding animal cruelty, the use of animals as symbols have come under increased scrutiny. The ECI also recognizes parties as national and regional and reserves their symbols accordingly. The point being that no two parties contest with the same or similar symbol in the same election in order to avoid confusion. So, BSP, a national party, cannot use their elephant in Assam and Sikkim, where it's been reserved for Assam Gano Porishad. But probably the most controversial situation the ECI routinely faces is to decide who, if at all, gets to keep the original symbol in case a party splits into factions. And no other party exemplifies this dilemma more than the Indian National Congress. The hand, which has now become synonymous with the Congress party, only came into being during a curious turn of events before 1980 Lok Sabha elections. It was done more out of compulsion rather than some carefully thought out political strategy. But much before that, when there was no precedence rule in India, and more importantly, no significant political opponent of the Congress, there occurred a deeper ideological split within the party. The meteoric rise of Indira Gandhi in the late 60s didn't go well with the party establishment. They believed themselves to be the original flag bearers of the ideals of Gandhi and Nehru and wanted its original election symbol of bullocks and oxen for themselves. Indira Gandhi was faced with a crisis and carefully chose the similar cow and calf as the symbol for her faction. Which brings us to the more pertinent use of election symbols: creating an ideological identity. While parties received the concept of symbols as more of an identity card to the electoral process, they proceeded to make a brand around it to sell their principles to the common voters. So we get BJP using age-old iconography of Hinduism, BSP paying tribute to their Dalit Buddhist Association, and Trinamool Congress being proud of their populist grassroots origin. Also, Congress mostly doing this.
शिव जी की फोटो में मुझे कांग्रेस पार्टी का चिन्ह दिखाई दिया. मैंने गुरु नानक जी की फोटो देखी, उसमें कांग्रेस का चिन्ह. मैंने बुद्धा की फोटो देखी, उसमें कांग्रेस का चिन्ह. महावीर जी की फोटो देखी, उसमें कांग्रेस का चिन्ह. हजरत अली जी की फोटो देखी, उसमें कांग्रेस का चिन्ह.
No wonder the list of free symbols made available by the commission doesn't get too many takers. This ideological conflict came at play when CPIM was born out of CPI. And this was reflected in the change of symbols as well. The hammer crossed into the sickle, signifying the greater unity among the working class of agrarian and industrial sector. A careful study of the leftist political symbols tend to bear resemblance to their position in the political spectrum. And this tendency is consistent throughout. So we end up with ironic situations: Shiv Sena and JMM, two regional parties using the same symbol to justify their very different ideologies. One signifying the vigilante Maratha warrior, constantly at conflict with those minorities who threaten their cultural identity and the others signifying their Adivasi roots and their struggle to get their voices heard. But probably the most abstract and least intended consequence of election symbols can be envisioned through the different lenses of Western and Indian democracy. While in the West, the practice of voting against a particular candidate can lead to an unchecked rise in the cult of personality and in turn foster authoritarianism. In India, this is hardly possible due to the practice of voting on symbols which denote an ideology and a party and not a personality. The practice, which came as a mere workaround to counter India's illiteracy problem, might just have sowed seeds of a level playing field where democracy can flourish. And while questions remain on India's ideological and political tendencies as a whole, the use of symbols will always be a force towards better future.